Find my face. Find my face. Why am I so false? Find my face. Oh, come on. Find my stupid face. Ah, there we go. Cool, cool. Nailed it. We're going to go. Let's start.
3, 2, 1, go.
What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Murphy. I'm one half of the Brothers Murph, and this is Metagame Minute. Metagame Minute is a weekly segment where Mike or I talk about anything we want to talk about in the board gaming world. And this week, I want to talk about non-gateway games. I'm having such a hard time articulating this well, but basically what I want to talk about is games that are not considered gateway games, and I think fairly not considered gateway games, but can become gateway games with a good teacher or at least someone who knows the game very well playing in the game. In my opinion, what makes a gateway game is not so much whether or not new gamers can grasp it, is whether or not they can pick up the rulebook on their own without someone to teach them the game and learn it on their own and be able to play. I think that is what makes a really true gateway game. Sometimes people are like, oh, this is a gateway game. But at the same time, if you allowed those people just to read the rulebook on their own, they probably would not do that well. And in general, for most people, it is easier to be taught a game than it is to learn a game on your own and then try to teach it to a bunch of other people who also don't know the game. So good teachers are very, very important. I think we all know that. We've talked about it many, many times. But this topic got brought up by someone in our Discord, a gentleman named Alex, who's been a long-time follower of ours. Thank you, Alex, for this idea for this Metagame Minute. And by the way, if you have Discord and want to join our Discord, there's going to be a link down in the description below of a free invite to join our Discord. It's just cool. We all hang out in there all day, every day. People from all around the world talking about board games, got music, a whole bunch of different stuff in there. But nonetheless, Alex was arguing in there that Gloomhaven can be a gateway game. Gloomhaven, this game, a giant, massive game that I don't think anyone in their right mind considers a gateway game. He is saying, no, it can be a gateway game as long as someone in the game is teaching it or at least knows the game pretty well. And I started thinking about it because I was like, that's actually kind of an interesting topic. That's actually kind of an interesting point because I actually agree. Gloomhaven itself is not that complicated. There's definitely a lot going on. There's a lot of like little rules in Gloomhaven, but like the general gameplay is not that complicated. And so if you have someone who knows the game really, really well, they're the ones who can take care of all the little stuff. So like, oh, how does this rule work? Oh, it works like this. They're the ones who can take care of like enemy movement and enemy focus and all the stuff that's kind of hard to like wrap your head around. They can be the one to kind of guide that or just straight up take care of that. And then the other person really only has to worry about themselves and their character and how they're working with the team as a whole. And that is something that I think pretty much everyone can do just fine. Gloomhaven could totally be a gateway game, especially if they're like a big RPG gamer. They like Skyrim, they like Red Dead Redemption, these kind of big, epic, really long, many hours type game. Gloomhaven could totally work for those people, even if they have never really played a hobby game. But if you just gave someone Gloomhaven for their birthday and gave them the rule book and went, have fun, they would probably never get through it. That game is massive, and hard to wrap your head around. Even if you're an experienced gamer like Mike and I, we had to watch a ton of videos, read the rulebook a couple times before we could really get it. But now that we know the game, I'm like, oh yeah, I could totally just teach someone the basics of this game and we can get up and running and going, no problem. So I started thinking about like, what other games are there like that? Games that I would never consider a gateway game, but like totally could be if someone in the game knows the game really well. And so I wanted to ask you, what are some games that you think are gateway games with a good teacher? And I would say try to exclude cooperative games for the most part, because cooperative games, in my opinion, lend themselves to gateway level situations more so than competitive ones, because information in cooperative games is much more fluid for the most part. So I started thinking about different competitive games that you could really make this argument with. And it was actually harder than I thought. It was more difficult because I was really trying to think of like, like what is a game that really would only work as a gateway game if someone knew the game well? The first example I thought of, in my opinion, the best one at least that we have is Small World. Small World is not a game that I would consider a gateway game, especially if someone was just trying to read it out of the rule book. It would be tough. But in Small World, there's not actually that much going on. The general mechanics of the area control and getting points and victory points is not hard to wrap your head around at all. The part that's hard to wrap your head around is all the different factions and races, all the different like superpowers, and the way they react when they're put together. But again, if one person really knows the game well, people go like, oh, what do the wizards do? They go, oh, you get 1 more point for every magic spot you're on. Oh, okay. Oh, well, what does mounted mean? Oh, mounted means this, this, this. And you can just answer those questions real quick, and then the game opens up for new people, because then the information they need is very, very accessible, and then the rest of it is pretty straightforward. So while I'd never consider Small World a gateway game, I think it could be if someone knows the game pretty well. Now here's one that's a little bit more of a stretch, but I'm going to go ahead and say Power Grid. I think you could do Power Grid, because Power Grid is not a complicated game. It's really straightforward. Just the strategy is really complex. It's mathy and stuff like that, but it's just basic addition. People can do that in their heads, or they can pull out a calculator on their phone if they want to. But the actual gameplay itself is like not complicated. You're just getting different power plants, which allow you to power a bunch of different spots on the board, and then you get the supplies to then power those spots. It's pretty easy, and you're like, oh, I want to move from this city to this city. Okay, this is how much it costs. The cost, figuring out how much things cost, is really, really easy. And I think that if you had a good teacher, you could do this with non-gamers. Now, keep in mind, if you were introducing people to board games, I do not know why you would choose this game first. It is objectively not a striking game. It's also not an interesting theme particularly. But hey, maybe if someone's, you know, works for like PG&E or something like that, you're like, hey man, you want to play a board game? You can start with Power Grid. I think it'd be a weird choice, but hey, why not? But I do think it could work. I think it's a little bit tougher, and the people going into it are going to have to know that they're probably going to get smashed the first game because it's so high strategy. But I think it could work in aspect of making it a gateway game with someone who knows the game well. So that is going to be it for me in this Metagame Minute. Please, down in the comments, write down other games you think that fit this criteria of non-gateway games that could become gateway with the right teacher. Please make sure to like and share this video as well. We're always trying to grow our community, and the best way to do that is by liking and sharing our stuff, and subscribe to our channel while you're at it. And that is going to be it for me. Whether or not you think this is a good concept in terms of trying to bring in new people through heavier games, or we should just stick to Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride. Remember, the more meta, the more better.
Wow. The Taj Mahal. I can't believe we're here, because we aren't. That's just a green screen Taj Mahal, you tib. But you know what? Someday we might actually get to go see the Taj Mahal and play board games in front of it with all of our favorite people. And you can help us do that by supporting our Patreon. That's right. We want to play board games all over the world, wherever you happen to be. And supporting our Patreon helps us do all sorts of awesome things like that. So thank you for all that support. But you know what's not fake? You know it's not fake like this Taj Mahal behind me? This Game Topper right in front of me. That's right. We have all of our games played on Game Toppers from GameToppersLLC.com. Go ahead and check out that website for awesome ways to upgrade your gaming experience. Go say hi to Berkey for us. And also check out Restoration Games while you're at it. Yeah. It just looks so realistic. Is this how they do the Avengers, Nick?
Yeah.
This is how they make Ultron?
I think sometimes they use blue screens though.
Oh.